Another team that doesn't lack for attention, the New York Knicks, with a key piece of offseason business. Mikal Bridges, a couple of days ago, signing a contract extension, 4 years and $150 million. So he already had 1 year on his contract. This year coming up, the last year of his deal that he signed when he was in Phoenix. He'll make about $25 million this year. The new extension starts in 26, 27. And bumps him to $33 million. It was slightly less than the maximum amount of money he could have signed for. He could have signed for about 156. I really do think that we need to start really doing this more on our pod, and I'm going to try to do it more on our coverage. Bobby Marks has been there for a while, but we need to start really talking in percentages of the cap. This year coming up, and granted, this is the first year of Jalen Brunson. Actually, is it the first year of Jalen Brunson's extension? I think it is. It's the first year of Jalen Brunson's new contract. Yeah. So this year, Jalen's new contract comes on the books. And this year, Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges combined account for about 39% of the Knicks salary cap. Next year, when Bridges' new contract comes on the books and Jalen's quote unquote discount, I don't say quote unquote, his contract remains on the books, they're going to account for about 42% of the salary cap, those two players. So this money, it's a large piece of money, but it isn't dramatically different when it comes to percentage of the cap. And that's not because of Bridges, that's because of Brunson. And Brunson only being 22 or so. This is what some of these caps are projected because we don't know where the caps are going to go. But over the next 4 years, Jalen Brunson's percentage of the cap is 23, 22, 22, 22. So he is making, and by the way, the max contract, as you know, can be as much as 35% of the cap.
Or for players in his grouping, it's 30% on this deal. He should be making, but if you're just going by merit, 30% of the cap. So he's giving them back a
so what Luka just signed for was 35% of the cap.
30%
of the cap, right? 30% of the cap. Jalen Brunson's making
would have been 35 in Dallas.
That's right. Jalen Brunson's making 22%, and that 8% makes a world of difference in the apron era. It just does.
Just for clarity, just so people have a sense of it. So Anthony Edwards is just under 30% this year. He's at 29.5. He's making $45.5 million. Jalen Brunson is making $34.9 million. So you're talking about a $10 million difference. And in a moment when every dollar counts, your best player being $10 million cheaper than he could be is a significant advantage.
Well, and when did Jalen Brunson sign his extension, which was the max he could get at the time, but still a massive discount that he didn't wait a year? He signed it after the Bridges trade was done. So I'm pretty sure that Jalen signed that with the idea of, hey, this is going to allow us to keep my guy that we just brought across town.
Yeah. So, I understand that. Well, first off, this contract for the Knicks, getting Bridges under contract, because he was limited in how much he could extend for this year. It was not a guarantee that this was going to get done. So to get him done and to get him for a little bit less than he could have gotten, it's a good piece of business for the organization. Now, Bridges will walk around New York with the millstone around his neck of the 5 first-round picks.
Yeah.
And, he will, he didn't ask for that, but that is the reality. But the reason I bring up these percentages of him and Brunson together, what percentage they are, it is still for a guy who is a quality two-way wing player and your face of your franchise. It is decent business. Let me ask you this, Tim Bontemps. You know how we look at contracts on this podcast. You sign a player. Can the player be traded if you have to trade him or you want to trade him for value. So I said to Bridges is owed about 25 million this year. So for the next 5 years, he's at about a 5 years and 175 million is what he is owed. Is that a tradable contract?
Yeah, our pal Danny LaRue from the Dunked Pod dubbed this the Nene test many years ago, and Nene signed that extension with Denver and then got traded. It is an interesting question. If Mikal Bridges plays like he did last year, I'm not sure how tradable the contract is. I think you could wonder. I mean, there are going to be teams with cap space next summer, so it is an open question, but I'm not convinced he was getting $450 million next summer based off how he played this past season. Part of Mike Brown coming in is to try to get everybody to, be more involved and to sort of lift the bench, lift the supporting cast, et cetera, around Jalen Brunson and Karl Towns. So we will see. As a very durable two-way wing player, it's probably a movable deal. I'm just not sure how positive it is.
I mean, historically durable.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. Never missed a game, to be clear. So yeah, I think it is. I just think it's a question of how much value it would be in the deal. But to MacMahon's point, this was probably baked in last summer when the trade happened and the Brunson extension happened. And for all we've talked about the discounts that these guys have taken to some degree, though Mikal hasn't taken, I don't think, nearly as much of one as Jalen, is those 5 guys plus Miles McBride and Tyler Kolek for next season are on the books for $203 million. The 5 starters, I should say, Towns, Anunoby, Brunson, Bridges, and Josh Hart. That is only about 18 million below the second apron, and that's with a lot of open roster spots. So you're basically looking at those 7 guys in minimums to be under the second apron. So this is the team that they have going forward. And the question is that team ever going to be good enough to ultimately get the Knicks where they hope to go? That is the question that's hanging over the Knicks even more than the 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, because for as great as the last couple seasons have been, as someone who lives in New York, I know what everybody wants in New York, which is to finally break the half-century wait to win title. And we were just in Oklahoma City. That team isn't going anywhere. The Cavs corner certainly is not going anywhere. Orlando is going to be awfully interesting the next couple of years after trading for Desmond Bane. So even more than the 5 first-round picks, it's that question. Now that you have this team locked in, just how good is it? I think that remains an open question.
Right, but I think if you're going to be that expensive, you better be a contender. And the Knicks can honestly look in the mirror and say, hey, this is a contending team. We are fresh off of a finals appearance. I do think it's reasonable to expect Bridges to be better this season, having a full season under his belt with his team. You could probably say the same thing about Karl Anthony Towns, although he was pretty damn good last year. And obviously the East is wide open. I mean, if you're the Knicks, it's certainly a finals or bust type of season. And so, yeah, if you're going to be expensive, the finals should be the expectation, that expensive at least.
Well, the reason I bring up the whole can you trade it is because this is we talked about the Lakers optionality. This is the Knicks optionality. I think they like this team. I think, they look at the 5 guys that they had last year who stayed relatively healthy. Mm-hmm. They got to the conference finals and they see Boston, a team that they were able to beat, but they see Boston pulling down, and the Cavs are definitely a team to be dealt with, but they are in the second apron now and the Knicks are not. And that is a key factor going forward. And so the Knicks have the option of riding this core out, or their pathway forward is to make a trade. And, you see Bridges get extended this summer. We have not heard anything about Karl Anthony Towns getting extended. And I don't think it has a commentary on Towns or the season he had. I just think that, Towns has 3 years and about 160 million left on his contract. Actually, I think it's more than that. I think it's 170. And there would be some challenge to trade that. If he's under the same.
Minnesota just did.
Well, right. but it was arguable about the value there when they did it.
Mhm.
And he can sign the same. He's on the same contractual path as Devin Booker. He and Booker got this supermax extension that they're on within a couple of days of each other, or a couple of hours of each other, a few years ago. Booker signed the extension this summer with the Suns. It was 2 years, like 145 or whatever it was. Towns is in the same boat, but I think one of the reasons that you may not see that happen is because if the Knicks put Towns on a contract that's 5 years and he's owed approaching $300 million, I think it makes him, I think it diminishes the Knicks' optionality
Yeah.
with their roster. And so that's what I think
Well, yeah.
the Knicks want to do. They like this team. They made a coaching change. They obviously believe that the moving to Mike Brown might be able to get more out of this team, and that they can sort of try to find some efficiencies that they weren't getting under Tom Thibodeau, or they can maneuver. And so I think their moves going forward, with Jalen Brunson being the key, their ability to stay under the second apron, which staying on the second apron helps you with trades because it changes what you can do. So I think the Knicks want to walk that line of having a team that is competitive and having a team that if a superstar becomes available, they can go get him and put him next to Brunson.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things on that. One, I think if Karl Towns was to sign an extension, I don't think there was any real, I shouldn't say this for certain. I don't think there's been real discussions of that one way or the other this summer, to your point, which I wouldn't take as any sort of a negative thing. I think it's much more likely that rather than the Devin Booker route, it's more like his former teammate Rudy Gobert's route, where he opts out of the player option in the last year and takes less money for longer years to lessen the hit and spread out the money, get more money, and also give his team some more flexibility. And the other thing to point out, as far as flexibility at the roster goes, is that Mikal Bridges signing this extension when he did means that he can be traded before the trade deadline. He'll come up a few days before the February trade deadline, and not saying he's going to get traded in February, but it is worth pointing out when you talk about moves the Knicks could make that is something that's important.
They just want to leave the doors open. They're not looking to go through the doors. They just want those doors to be open. That's all.
It's like, listen, when I got in that raft, go whitewater rafting, we're planning to have a great time, but I damn sure put on a life jacket. Didn't want to use it.
Well, Pat Riley, I continue to learn so much whenever I spend time around the Heat organization. But, one of the Heat sayings, Spoelstra uses it, but it's a Rileyism. I don't know if they use this with you, MacMahon, but if you fall out of the boat and you're in trouble, because I think the story goes with this. I don't know if it was in one of Riley's books, but it was told to me verbally when I was in Miami. You have to be an active participant in your own rescue.
No, I've heard that one.
So if you fall out of the boat, you can't just sit there and wave your hands and hope somebody comes and yanks you out. That's the way the Heat try to do business. You have to be an active participant in your own rescue. So that's a whitewater rafting thing.
There were some choppy waters for the Heat last year. Old Jimmy was rocking that boat pretty good.
Yes, he was. Yeah, Jimmy was trying to throw people overboard. He was doing the exact opposite, which is one of the reasons why I think that didn't end so well with Jimmy and Pat. Okay. I'm not sure this part's going to be in the podcast. We'll see. But we are expecting, I don't know if it happened today because today is the first day. It could happen. Actually, I think maybe even yesterday was. But sometime in the next day or couple of days, there is an expectation that De'Aaron Fox will extend his contract with the San Antonio Spurs. He wasn't eligible until the last couple of days. The Spurs traded 3 first-round picks for him at the trade deadline. When they did that, they were pretty much saying they were going to give him a big contract number this year, and they saw him as Victor Wembanyama's point guard.
Co-star. Not just point guard, co-star.
Co-star, sure, if you're going to pay the guy over $200 million on a contract.
And by the way, his preferred list of destinations had one team on it, the San Antonio Spurs. Rich Paul's not placing a star client somewhere that he's not going to get paid.
Right, and whatever you want to say about Rich Paul, the client said, I want to be traded, and I want to be traded to this team, and I want to get paid. And Rich Paul delivered that, so say whatever you want about him, but his work product is there for all to see. So
He's
there
good
it
at his
is.
job.
So now let me ask the question, Bontemps, assuming that there's a contract that we expect him to get, can you trade that contract?
I mean, probably, but if you look around the league, there's not a lot of teams that need point guards, and there's not a ton of I'm not sure what the interest level would be. I mean, it's the same thing as if you want to try to start constructing fake LaMelo Ball trades or fake Trae Young trades or fake, any of these point guard trades. De'Aaron's obviously a great player, but it's an interesting dynamic in the market. And like we've talked about a bunch, we've talked about the Spurs a lot this summer. I think one of the really interesting questions across the entire league this year, and maybe the next couple of years, is how do the Spurs sort out the combination of Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, and De'Aaron Fox? Because on paper, those are three high value, really interesting players that don't fit together. And you could probably find a way to play two of them together. It seems really hard to find a way to play all three of them together for extended minutes. And it's going to be really fascinating for Mitch Johnson, the now full-time head coach of the Spurs, and our guy Sean Sweeney, the now lead assistant in San Antonio, to figure out what the best way to maximize those guys is, the best way to bring along those young guys, and to see how they all fit together. Because that, I think, more than anything else, outside of just Victor's continued ascendance to stardom, that's the thing that's going to determine sort of what the direction of the Spurs is going forward. Is what is the solve to that question, and what does it look like, both for who do the Spurs decide to keep, how do they decide to use them, and if they move on from one of them, what is the return and a potential deal for any one of them that they move on from?
And when you ask, can you trade the contract? It's not, can you trade it right now? It's down the road. And I think down the road, there will be more teams that have need at point guard. I mean, you look at the Clippers, for example. James Harden's still playing at a high level, but, he's not the long-term solution there. And, I think there's a handful of teams that would fit in that category. I think there's more teams that need point guards than you're indicating right now.
I guess what I mean by that is it's a combination of need and can you get value in return? Like, sure. A lot of teams are just taking Aaron Fox, but that's different than can you trade him for stuff you really want back? That's more the question you're asking.
And then I think it's too early to say how these three guards are going to fit or whether they can fit. And a lot of this year, this year definitely is a year where the Spurs need to make a leap. The Spurs need to be a playoff team. They need to make major strides in year 3 of Wemby and hopefully a full healthy year for Wemby. But it's also still an evaluation year. It's still Wemby early in his career on his rookie contract. And it's, you're still in the rookie, the rookie year for Dylan Harper, and the second year for Stephon Castle. And so I think it's a lot of this year is about the evaluation of how that guard group fits together. And, especially the development, I think, of Castle in particular. Castle's shooting ability, I think, is going to be a key that can either unlock or lock a lot of things for the Spurs in terms of fit, because if he can shoot it, and he's a shooter who defenses have to guard, I don't see why those three can't play together sometimes. He can he's a big, strong dude. He can guard threes. I can promise you that.
Well, again, let's talk about optionality. Because Dylan Harper, about to be a rookie, and Stephon Castle are on rookie contracts, so is Victor for that matter.
Yeah.
The Spurs have optionality. They're not, whether or not this trio works together or not, they have maneuverability with it, because they're not giving all of them 9 figures, at least not right now. So that enables them. Plus, it's interesting, when they did this deal, they certainly knew what they had in Castle, but they had no idea they were going to end up with a number 2 pick
No,
and be able to draft the best guard in the draft.
no,
It's obviously a good problem to have.
Right.
But at the
Right.
same time,
Right.
it is worth pointing out, and I'm a big Stephon Castle fan. He shot 26.7% from three at UConn. He shot 28.7% last year. De'Aaron Fox has had one 36% three-point shooting season. Every other one has been well below that, and he's a 33% career shooter. Dylan Harper was a 33% shooter from three last year at Rutgers. That's not going to work long term. So, yes, like at least one of those guys, and it's probably not going to be De'Aaron Fox because he's now mostly a formed player, is going to have to become a much better shooter, if not two of them, for that to be a viable trio. And that's why, yes, this year I think is all about observation with those guys and what do they try to do and how do they try to fit them together? Because you still have Devin Vassell. Like there's a lot of interesting pieces there in San Antonio, and I still think we're probably a move or two away from the core of whatever the first real contending team looks like around Victor, I would think, because just on paper, it feels like there's still a move or two left to be made before this looks like the fully ready team that he'll be looking for.
Well, and I asked you guys recently, do you think the Spurs would have made the Fox trade if they'd had known, which is impossible, what if they would have known they were going to get Dylan Harper in the draft? And the answer is probably not. Just from a cost perspective, probably not. But like you said, Bontemps, there are a lot worse problems to have than, hey, we've got three guards who are pretty damn good. How do they fit together?
The other thing, again, as long as we're talking about optionality, the Spurs have some big expiring contracts on their roster. Harrison Barnes and Kelly Olynyk being the two biggest ones combined. They're over $32 million that they can go shopping. And that, depending on what they do with those, they could also let them just come off their books. But if they go shopping during the season, they also have Jeremy Sohan, who is extension eligible. So whether or not they decide to pay him or not, if they don't extend him, does that somebody they look to move? So Spurs are going to be doing some interesting things, but because they've got so many of their core pieces on rookie contracts, it enables them, I think, to make a big investment in a player like Fox because they believe that he has such value. They did, I think, even though they gave up 3 firsts, I think they felt good about the value that they got in that trade.
Well, and it was 4 firsts with a wink because one of them was never going to convey as a first. And they went into it with a surplus of picks. They still have plenty of picks. Like
Right.
if there's a trade to be made, they've got plenty of ammo, including draft capital moving forward. And listen, Wendy, you've been telling us about the breakfast tacos, that Riverwalk, the proximity to Austin, and the fact that
I haven't talked about the Riverwalk. I will vouch for the fact that San Antonio has got more going for it than people want to give it credit for. It's very much a growing city.
Per capita, there's as many facial and head tattoos in San Antonio as anywhere in America. But in seriousness, since they got Wemby, you've been talking about, hey, San Antonio is going to be a destination for players. And they didn't engage in the KD bidding, but they were on Kevin Durant's list.
Yeah, that was on De'Aaron Fox's list. And again, we talked about this a little bit with the Knicks. The next superstar player that becomes available, I don't know if that player will say the Spurs are on his list, but there's no doubt that they will consider the Spurs.
I'm on fire.